This is Allison Tyler Jones, and you are listening to From Nothing to Profit.
Welcome to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya, where each week they talk to photographers about what is working in their business now so you can swipe those ideas and grow your business faster.
This is Kaya today, and I am interviewing Allison Tyler Jones all by myself. Matt is speaking at a convention today, and so this is a first for me to do a solo interview. And I think it's a first for you, Allison, to do a full podcast. Is that right?
It is. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. Although this is a first for Allison to do a full podcast, she is a veteran speaker and has been a photographer for, how many years?
I think 14.
14 years. Okay. I know it's hard to know how long when you get our bios. So I first saw Allison at actually the national convention, and I had not known who she was. And I sat in her program and was blown away by how professional she is, by how well she knows how to run a business, and by how great her photography is. And what I loved about it is that she had come into photography not from like a moms with a camera, which is, very typical for women, and also not from a big corporate job or something and wanting to do something else. She came at it from already being in the artistic industry. And so, Allison, do you want to tell us more about yourself and your expertise?
Sure. As Kaya said, I came into this industry a little bit sideways. I had owned my own retail store. We were the first scrapbooking store outside of Utah, and I had that business for about 12 years in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when we were selling that business off, I thought, well, I'll just take 6 months off and I'll just do a little bit of photography until I decide what it is that I'm going to do. But one thing is for sure, I'm not going to make another hobby into a business. And so 14 years later, another hobby was made into a business. But I came from that aspect of when I had my scrapbooking store, the intention always was to make a profit, that it had to support my family. And so when I came into photography, even though I started thinking that I would just do it for a little bit of time, the intention was always that it was going to be a business. And once I realized that this is what I was going to do, the intention was that we're going to make it into a business. It's going to support my family. And so that was from the beginning. It kind of never was just for fun.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me like when you do things, you do them in a really excellent way. And so even fun to you is doing things well. I'm assuming doing them, all the way.
Yeah. And well, it is a constant maximizing, I guess you would say, or I don't know, trying to always improve is something that's really big for me. It's also the thing that puts me in the fetal position in many aspects of my life, but it is something that I'm always striving to do better.
So do you still scrapbook?
No. It's so sad.
Okay. Because
that kind of ruined me scrapbooking for my family. I'd always done that ever since I was a little kid. And then once it was a business, I just didn't really do it for my family anymore. I was doing it as samples for the store. And so it kind of ruined that for me, actually. So it's really sad.
That's funny. I have always have this vision of myself as like making these beautiful scrapbooks and creating these amazing moments. And the only scrapbook I have is a Christmas one. And it's not really even a scrapbook. It's just like a book that you can like write in, but I cut up everyone's Christmas cards and put them in every year and then write in it. And it's like,
that's so cool though. Well,
but I've done it for 20 years and I think I've hit my last year. So I'm like, okay, well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, with the scrapbooking store, actually, it's funny because I had always, I, like many people, I, loved photography from when I was young, and I was the photo editor of the yearbook when I was in high school. And so when I started that business, I really thought it would be more photography. Like I thought we were going to do, have dark room, because this was pre-digital. I thought we were going to have darkrooms. We were going to be doing Polaroid transfers and all these cool art journals and this really, really photographically heavy thing. And then I realized that everybody just wanted stickers and scissors that cut paper into weird shapes, And so then I realized that there was actually a lot of money in that. We did about $1 million a year on a $20 average sale. So we ran a lot of volume through that business, and it was a good business for a long time. But, nobody really wanted the photography until the very tail end as everything was going digital. Then it was funny because all of our photography classes kind of took off and everybody wanted to do photography at that point.
So you thought it was going to be more like kind of fine art scrapbooking, but it was more crafty.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Nobody could get like Polaroid transfer. What? We did do a few of those classes, but really everybody just wanted to pile on, 50 stickers and it was fun. We definitely went at it from like an archival standpoint, acid free this and that, but it was really, really fun. I look back now and I when we first started and we were, putting up all these racks of stickers and all that stuff, I said to my business partner at the time, I said, where this is all going? We're going to end up back where we started with like black pages, black photo corners, black and white pictures with like the little, what is the word I'm looking for? The border around it. And then white, writing in white pencil. We're going to all come back from all this like excess back to this streamlined, simple. And it's like when you look at Artifact Uprising and a lot of these places now that are, fulfilling, that's exactly what it is. It's all come back to that really simple, spare, clean. So it's kind of funny.
Well, that is interesting because when I heard you had a scrapbooking store and then I saw your work, which you really just described your work, black and white, simple, clean, I was wondering where the connection was. And it makes more sense that you had assumed it would be more of like an art-based, and now you're at that. So let's segue into your current photography business, because it sounds to me like your current photography business is even more successful than your scrapbooking business. And so the name of this podcast is From Nothing to Profit, What's Working Now in the Photography Industry. And so we would love to know kind of what are you doing in your studio now with your photography now that you feel is really working well?
Okay. So our studio, I do exclusively studio work. I've gotten to the point where we don't do any location, and I specialize in families and kids. And my business is basically based on 3 pillars, which is that it has to have an artistic feel. So it's art my tagline is art that happens to be your family. I want a long-term relationship with my clients. So I'm not a one and done. I don't want to create a marketing arm that's just going to jam a bunch of people in my funnel. And I'm hoping that some of them will buy, and then I don't care if I ever see them again. So we're really based on relationship and referral. And then the other pillar is a finished product. So we create pieces of art for our client's home, and that's where we start from. That's what we're speaking from the very first phone call. We're talking about finished products. We do not sell printable digital files. So art, a long-term relationship, and a finished product, those are the 3 things that my business is based on. And so it's working for us in that we're not competing with anybody that's a shoot and share model in our market. We don't really see ourselves as in competition in that respect. It doesn't mean that we think we're beyond competition or that we think we're so cool. It's just that we're just in a different business. We're providing fine art for the home. We're helping solve those kinds of problems. We're not so much focused on, what's this cool? We're focused on the shooting. We definitely want to create something amazing and fabulous but it is for their home. And so that's really what's working for us, is that I'm trying not to be distracted by everything else that's going on, because I started out of my home for 4 years. When I sold my scrapbooking store, I didn't, want to just go into overhead overnight because I didn't have a business established. And so I have a home that has a basement. And so for 4 years, I shot out of that basement and did sales sessions in my dining room. And then once it was kind of taking over the house and I could see that I was at a certain level of income and I knew that I could support, that I could still be profitable and have a studio rental, be able to pay studio rent, then we made the leap to a downtown studio, and we've been there since 2009. And so when I was shooting from home and in the basement, I was doing maybe 40% studios, about 60% location. And then as I went into the studio, just more and more, I've always loved studio work from day one. I've loved it. And I love the ability to control the light, no matter what time of year, no matter what time of day. And I love the relationship with the subject. I love that interaction. And so I just felt like that when I was either introducing props or a lot of background or environment, it was detracting from, to me, the most interesting part of the image, which was the person. So the more spare and clean I got, the happier I was with what I was doing. And then it also happened to be that as I was not running around, for 3 hours getting to and from a shoot and breaking it up and, putting it up and taking it down, it just was so great. The studio just seemed to really be a great fit for me.
Well, and you, because you do the studio lighting and the really simple images, that plays into the 3 pillars of your business. It's so funny because I'm like, I should be taking notes, dang it. But your simple images obviously look more like art, and then the simple images are going to go in any home, but also because you're doing similar images over time, that lets you keep that relationship where you're not creating one specific look for one specific time. So that's really interesting to hear that. So my next question for you is, what are you most fired up about in our industry? What is something that you're excited about, something that you're worried about? Just, I know you just spoke didn't you speak this year at Imaging? Yeah, at the National Convention. And so I'm assuming you saw trends and kind of thought about it a bit. So tell us what you're most fired up about the photography industry now.
The thing that I'm most excited about is I really feel like, 2003 was when it was the first year that more people shot digital than film. And so, exponentially that's just grown, and here we are. And I think that we had a ton of people coming into the industry, kind of churning around down at the bottom, editing 24 hours a day, not seeing their kids. A lot of women not valuing what it was that they were doing. Like, oh, well, it doesn't take me that much time, so I shouldn't charge that much, or whatever, fill in the problem here, And it's interesting to me to see people that have, and our trade organization would say that that at the bottom, there are a lot of photographers that are new, that are coming in, and they kind of churn around at the bottom at about the 2-year mark. And usually they wash out at about 2 years. They've just had it. They're editing themselves blind. They're tired. They're not making any money. It's horrible. And it's taking away from their family. They have no life. But if they can get some education at some point in that 2-year period and realize, oh, wait, I actually have to charge what I'm worth. I actually have to, make this into a business and take this a little bit more seriously. They can do really, really well. And so I saw a lot of that when I was at Imaging this year. There are people that are just out there doing really, really well. And I belong to a group of photographers. It's a group.
Like a mastermind.
Yeah, it's called XXV, and it's just some of the really great portrait photographers and commercial photographers. And we all sat in a room in the spring of the last year, and every single person that stood up said, "This is my best year yet." And so I think that's pretty amazing when you hear the dire, or if you get online, oh my gosh, if you go on to any Facebook group, it's a doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. There's so much competition. All these moms with the camera are just ruining the whole industry. And it's not true. It's not true. So the recession's over. People are spending, but they're not going to just spend on just anything. There's a specific thing, and it's going to be a specific thing for you. Kaya, you're going to have a different thing that people are spending with you than they would spend with me. But I think those who are willing to really figure out what their secret sauce is and how they want to do business and what the value of that is, are going to do really, really well. And that's true of any industry and any time in history. But this is the best time in history. It's the baby boomers have the largest amount of disposable income in the history of the world. And those are definitely my clients, because that's that older mom. The millennials are hitting their stride in their careers, and I'm starting to see a little trickle of millennials calling saying, I just want a real photographer. And I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? And they're like, well, we've been going with my sister-in-law has a nice camera, or somebody in my neighborhood, and we just want somebody that is just knows what they're doing, that can tell us how to dress, can tell us what to do. And that we've heard that you'll print it out and come and hang it on our wall. And that's what we want. I just don't want to have to deal with it anymore. So, we're not catering to a DIY clientele. We're catering to people that want to have something done for them. So I think that those things I see more and more of that. And I think that there's enough business out there for everybody. And I feel like that our industry as a whole is starting to become a little more positive. You're always going to have the negative naysayers out there who are going to, just say that it's all going bad and it's never going to be good. But usually those are people that are either scared, or there are people that maybe they had it good at one time and never really evolved their business.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, because I've been in the business long enough to see the transition from film to digital, to see the transition from proofs to, in-person sales. And so every time that there's a change, there are people that don't have a vision and are just used to doing what they're doing. But one of the things that you were just saying is, I think what you're seeing is that the consumer is starting to have more money than time. And so as a, photographer, we're in both a product and a service industry. And so to be able to help them gain more time, which is what you're doing, they're not having to figure everything out. You're consulting with them, you're planning.
Right.
Yeah. So, but you're helping people trade their money for more time and service. So that's
right. And what I found is that even people that have a lot of money, there's still, it's rare to find somebody who will take responsibility for something, who will stand up and say, you know what, I know how this is supposed to go. And I know what you're supposed to wear. I know how I'm going to light it. I know the concept I'm going to use. I know where it's going to hang on your wall. I know how we're going to frame it. And let me just take this over and handle this for you. And in an industry, honestly, no matter how much money people have, it is very hard to find that level of expertise and that level of people willing to take responsibility for the process from beginning to end. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to take responsibility from beginning to end, you have to be able to charge for that. And there are people that are willing to pay for it. So I think in the beginning, when I kind of started down this road, you kind of go through this thing of when you're raising your prices or whatever, you're like, oh, I just feel bad. I want everybody to be able to afford me. And I had to let that go. Everybody is not going to be able to afford me. The people that want to do it themselves, that just want the files and that want to go and order Shutterfly books and all that kind of stuff, those are not going to be my clients, even though I love those people. And they're my neighbors and they're, I go to church with them and they're my friends and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily, those people that want that level of service are never going to spend the money, whether they have it or not, with me, because they think they can do it. I'm catering to people that don't want to do it. They just want, I just need to show up in what you told me to wear. You're going to figure this out. You're going to direct my kids. You're going to make this whole magic happen. We're going to have a great time while we're there. And then in a little while, you're going to show up at my house and install it on my walls. And then I'm going to take credit for all of it and tell the story to myself and others that I'm a, great mom and that I value my family.
And maybe she is a great mom because she didn't fight with her children to make it all happen.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome stuff, guys. Hey, on that note, let's just take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You look at your calendar and notice you need clients now. So you do a little marketing, and get some phone calls. You get busy helping those new clients. They schedule sessions, they place orders, and life is good. But once they're done, your calendar is empty again. The reason is you didn't have time to market while you were busy. Sometimes your business feels like a roller coaster. And let me tell you something, it is. And believe me, you're not alone. Photographers everywhere have the same problem. But I have some great news. Matt's business, Allison Ragsdale Photography, after years of trial and error, has cracked the code. It works so well, he's created a new class all about it. It's called Get Clients Now, a dead, simple approach to getting photography clients. Everyone at From Nothing to Profit is excited to share this info with you because this system helped Matt and Allison book hundreds of clients this year at their studio. And the best part about this system is that it's simple to set up and it works while you're sleeping. No hard selling or creepy marketing. All you have to do is help your clients answer their most pressing questions. Clients love the system and say it is the #1 reason they book with Matt and Allison. If you're interested in learning more about this system, go to photopodcast.co/simple. Matt has created a short free video that introduces this system. If you like what you hear, podcaster listeners get an exclusive discount on the full class. So make sure you go to photopodcast.co/simple and sign up for the free video. It will help you book more clients now and create the business you've always wanted.
Okay, so let's move on to the lightning round. So these are kind of quicker questions. And so I'll just ask and then you can kind of answer as we go. So because you transitioned over from, a different business, this is a great question. So what was holding you back from becoming a full-time photographer?
Well, I didn't want to build another business around a hobby, which, I think I said that before.
Yes.
And I also just was like, I was really worried about building a business all around just me. The business I had before, I could take 6 months off and write a book and the business would just run without me. And that's that was a valid concern and it continues to be a concern. I was right. It was hard to build a business around yourself.
Yeah. And do you have family that works with you in the business?
Yeah. I made my husband quit his job about 5 years ago. And so he works with me. And so 100% of our income comes from the studio. That's what we do.
Yeah. I've done that too.
Yeah.
We don't right now, but my husband is a pastor. And so a good portion of our income definitely comes from the photography business. Okay. So if you had $1,000 right now, what would you buy that's photo related?
Oh, I didn't see that on the list.
I know.
Oh, only 1,000?
Yep.
I would probably
just whatever.
Yeah. I'd probably buy the iPad Pro just because I keep putting off buying it and I really want it. I don't really need it, but it's so sexy and I really want it. But I think it's more, I think the iPad Pro pimped out is probably $3,000. So
yes, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. That's interesting. For Christmas, I got my husband the Surface.
Oh yeah.
And we had never, I haven't owned a PC item. I don't know if I ever have. And so that was really a weird feeling. He was like, I just think it's better. I want to try it. So
you cheated on Steve so bad.
I know. Okay. So if you have $1,000 right now, what would you not buy?
What would I not buy? What are some examples of things that people have not bought?
Well, I think templates or, some people have said education is what they would spend money on and other people, that kind of thing. What would you suggest people to not spend their $1,000 on? I'm assuming you just walked through the trade show. So there were things that you were like, ooh, I would not spend money on that. Well, I think people, get caught up in, I think the reason that Matt put this question in is because I think people get caught up in buying things that they think are going to make their business better.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the question.
Right. Well, what I would not buy is for my business, actually for the $1,000, I would buy a $1,000 Amazon gift card or Audible so that I could because I'm such a book and Audible book and book reader. That's actually what I would buy because that is what I actually do buy. What I wouldn't buy is probably things that I have bought a lot of, which is I bought a ton of Creative Live. I shouldn't say Creative Live or, online education things that I think in the moment, oh, that sounds really, really good. And then I never even open and look at them or whatever, it's I would say I won't let myself buy another one of those until I've used the last one that I did. But
so not necessarily that those aren't valuable, but that you need to be ready to use them.
Yeah, exactly. Because you buy that stuff and then you're like, wait a minute, I think I have something like that. I need to go back to it or organize it. Like somebody needs to come up with a way to organize that stuff. But I don't know if that's a really good answer.
Well, I think that's good. Yeah. Is you wouldn't buy education until you're ready to use that education. Like I just bought a class, which I never spend that much on things, but I've done it. I set aside time every day. Every time a lesson comes out, I spend time with it. Actually, it's Jamie Swanson, her personal branding. I never do that type of thing, but we interviewed her on the podcast, and I thought this was one of my lists of things I was going to launch this spring. Oh, cool. And I thought if I invest in this and sit down and do it, I could have figured it out. Like I could have end arounded her and, found other people that have, obviously been in her class, copied them. But I was just like, first of all, I think that doesn't have integrity. So I'm not going to do that. But second of all, I think if I spend the money, it's going to make me do it. Right. And I've already, 2 lessons in, have got more done than I think I would have gotten without doing it. So
that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. I know what I wouldn't buy for real. Ooh. I know what I wouldn't buy. Good. I would not buy another like lens or piece of equipment. I wouldn't buy that. And really, it's been a really long time since I used to just really be into that. Like I was just sure that if I bought that next lens, it would make me a better photographer. But really, equipment is just what it can do. And if I can't do what I need to do, like the only reason I'm going to buy something is if I just get to a point in my creative journey to where I cannot go past that without that. And I need to have a pretty compelling reason for that, just because it needs to make money.
So what do you shoot? Canon or Nikon?
I shoot Nikon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what lens do you shoot?
I am like a 70 to 200. Like really? I love me a 70 to 200.
How do you have a long studio to be able to get back and get those full family shots with your?
I do. I am usually on my butt, like with my back against the wall all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But if it's a really big family, then I'll shoot a 24-70, but I love the compression of a 70 to 200 and I always have. I would shoot 200. Really, I would love to have a 200, but I'd have to knock a wall out,
Yeah, you have to knock a wall out and you would have to get Arnold Schwarzenegger arms.
Right. I know. Totally.
Okay. So what is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, the bet, I thought about this when I got the questions and I'm like, that is just such a loaded question. And, I think everybody's heard this advice. So don't turn off the podcast the second I say this, because I kind of have a little bit of a different take on it. But it's to, one of my favorite quotes is Oscar Wilde's, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." And, your mom always said that to you, just be yourself, when you're in junior high and you're like, nobody wants me. But I think in this industry in particular, it's a good idea for life in general, but in our industry in particular, what cannot be replicated is you. And what we do is we are in many ways the product. And that I found that the more I went to inward and the more I went who I already was, becoming more of who I already was, the more successful I've become. And when I first started, I think when you first start in any industry, you kind of look around and see what everybody else is doing, kind of like, well, how is this business done? And you feel like, well, okay, that's how we should do it. But I feel like this industry has been so completely disrupted that the older rules just don't really apply. There are some basic principles that apply across the board in business that will always be, true. But it's so different. And a lot of the things that people have said from time immemorial just really don't apply anymore, or maybe they don't apply for you. And so if those things don't apply, then how could you do business? So for me, an example of that would be, well, okay, digital's come, you have to sell digital files. That's just the way it is. If you're not doing it, you're going to be left behind, and I just decided I sold digital files for the first 6 months I was in business. And then I realized there's no way and it wasn't because I thought, oh, I'm not going to make any money. It was because I was going over like to my sister's house and she has some, 20 by 30 canvas on the wall that she got printed at Costco. It's supposed to be black and white, but it was purple. And she's telling everybody in her neighborhood that I did it. And while they might not be able to tell the difference, I was mortified, So I realized, okay, no, I have to have that control over how this whole thing is going to go down. And this is how I want it to look. And so, and I second guess myself a lot too, because I'm an oldest child. So, oldest children must be right, must be perfect. We're always looking around. Does everybody love me? Does everybody think I'm great? And so, I had a lot of angst about that. Like, am I doing it right? And then finally I would say, am I doing it right? And then I'd second guess myself and listen to other people. And then finally I would just say, I don't care. I'm just going to do it this way. So I quit looking at what other photographers were doing. I quit worrying about what everybody else in the quote unquote industry was doing. I don't really spend a ton of time online in forums and that sort of thing. I really just kind of have my own vision of how I want to do it. And that's worked well for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to look around at the industry or look around artistically and see if there are ways to evolve the work. Because like we were saying before, I don't want to get stuck in this, well, this is the way I've always done it. I'm always, very worried about like, am I relevant? Am I still, am I evolving the work? Am I still staying interested? And I think once you're like 15 years into your career, those are two very interesting topics. It's a lot of things I talk about with a lot of people that have been in business for a long time is it's like, okay, am I even relevant in what I'm doing? Is my stuff still good? Does it still resonate? And then do I want to put a gun in my mouth every, September looking down the barrel of the holiday season, like what's going to keep me interested and keep me moving forward. And usually that's some kind of a creative challenge, whether it's the creativity in the business or the creativity in the work itself. And for me, I like both of those things. So that's a really long answer for just be yourself. Do it how you think you should do it.
Yes. And that's going to make you successful because I think, and we can't necessarily go into this, but what I think is a really fascinating thing that you said at the very beginning is we're all selling a different product. Like you and I could be next door to each other and have completely different clients and both have successful businesses. Right. Because we're selling completely different products. And there are buyers for both. Like you said, the business is, there's not a rule, things don't look the same like they used to. So that's very true. So share one of your personal habits that you think contributes to your success.
In 2010, I was probably about 275 pounds. And I had just always been heavy as an adult. And it started to really impact my health. And I decided that I was going to change that. And I tried before, but a few things kind of coalesced and I lost 100 pounds over about 18 months. And so part of that process was I realized I'd been going on diets for a long time. And I would always think, well, when can I stop this? Like, when can I quit the diet? When can I quit the working out part of it? And it was, for some reason, this journey, I realized this is the rest of my life. This is what I have to do. And I've always lived in my head. I've never really been a PE girl. And I've been like all about the brain and the personality. And I finally realized, wait a minute, this is the brain carrier. I need to take care of the brain carrier. And so my habit is that I work out 6 days a week, usually about 6 o'clock in the morning, now, not on Saturdays, but I'll work out a little bit later, but working out every single day has given me actually an extra 2 to 3 hours in the day and really good hours when I'm awake and really, really, really going. And so I established a rule that 3 days a week is my minimum that I can consider myself successful, and 6 days a week is optimal. And that little mindset has really helped me in other areas in the business that I was always kind of all or nothing. Like if I'm not doing it all the way, then I just forget it. I'm not going to do any of it. So that establishing a minimum successful and then an ideal and being able to swing between those two things has been super helpful. But just that exercising first thing in the morning just gets me up and it gets my mind going. And I usually arrive at the gym like 20 minutes early so I can plan my day and make notes. And it's just been a game changer for me.
That is amazing. I didn't know you before then. And it's so funny because I immediately think your cheekbones, but I love your cheekbones. I'm so glad. It's hard to imagine, but it's neat to hear that. That's a really neat success story and a really neat personal habit. So, you said you would spend money on Audible. So I don't know if this is going to be your internet resource or not, but what is an internet resource that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yeah,
you can say Audible if you want.
I think Audible is, especially for people that have a hard time reading, either have a hard time making time for it. Or I've had a lot of people say, how do you read so many books? I just fall asleep when at the end of the day, I'm too tired. But, I don't have a long commute to work. But even still, just having books loaded up on my phone and being able to listen to them Bluetooth, just in that little time in between errands, whatever, you can get so many more books read that way. And it's a different way of processing it as well. It's like sometimes if I really am liking the book that I'm listening to, then I buy it in the print format too, so I can go in and make notes. And then of course I have to buy it on my Kindle too, because then I need to read it, so I have very many books in all three formats. So I would definitely say Audible. If you could only have one internet resource in your life, Audible would be the one for me for sure.
That is really interesting. I'm not a good listener. And so I do like podcasts, but I am not like to listen to a whole book sounds scary to me. Like I've never listened to a whole book, except for, but I read probably several books a week,
Well, anyway. It's a kind of a different, what I found, I'm not a good listener either, because I'm too, I really ADD, but what I found is that it's kind of like I pick different things up from it. Like, so I'll listen to it and I'll hear like, oh, that was really interesting. And then then I go back and I read it and I was like, it almost like it's coming from a different hemisphere in my brain. You should try it. You should try just one. Because with Audible, when you first sign up, I think you get the first book free.
Yeah, no, we have like credits. My husband just sent me them. He was like, you should get some books. So speaking of that, if I were to do that, what books would you recommend? And you can do more than one if you want to, or just one.
I know. Well, it's like picking your favorite child. It's probably easier to pick your favorite child. But honestly, one book that I read or listen to every 6 months minimum is a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's Greg, Greg, and his last name is Mckeown. And it's just excellent. It's just about keeping the main thing, keeping focused on what really matters. And it's not really, but in business. It's also higher level too, like in life, but in business. And the thing that I loved about that when I first started reading is he talks about that if you're good at what you do and if you become successful, it actually becomes this complicating situation because then everybody wants you for different things. And so people are just constantly pulling at you. And then, so success breeds more opportunities, but not all opportunities are created equal. So how do you pick from the things that are, so his thing is we're not choosing from like the crap from the good, like anybody can do that. We're choosing the good from better or really, really good things from excellent things. And so how do you pick that out? Those are hard things because we want to do everything. And so it's just the concept of prioritization that we can't do everything, that for every yes you're saying no to something else. And you need to realize that. And in our society and how we live now, especially with all of the distractions and everything we have, we really think that we can do it all and we really can't. And so he's talking about how we're just making a millimeter of progress in a million different directions rather than going long and deep into something that's really, really amazing. And so it centers me and it helps me refocus. But that book I love. And then the other one I would say for anybody listening to this podcast, especially if it's From Zero to Profit, would be Mike Michalowicz's The Pumpkin Plan.
Yep.
That
I'm reading that one right now.
Oh my gosh, that is, and that's another one I read and or listen to, and I have that in every format I love that guy and that book and Profit First, his other book, Profit First, changed my business for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that book was great. It's so funny. I had the book Essentialism and I read part of it, and then I left it on purpose at a Echo Hotel on the side of a lake in Guatemala, because I was like, I should leave it here because I don't have to carry it. So it was being an essentialist and leaving the book behind with someone else.
But see, if you had it on Audible, then it would weigh nothing, and then you could have it with you. So.
Okay. Allison, thank you so much for being on here with us. This is amazing, and I would love to keep visiting, but we want to keep it in our time. And so I would love to hear any parting piece of guidance that you would want to give our listeners, and then the best way to connect with you.
The last piece of guidance that I would give anybody listening to this is that thing that you're looking for, that you're just sure is on the horizon, that's going to make all the difference in your business, that's going to make all the difference in your life, is not on the horizon. It's within you, and you have the ability, and all it takes is just to find it for yourself. And so quit looking outside externally and take time, maybe every day, or if that's too much, once a week, once a month, and just sit and think about what it is that you're doing. Maybe write, maybe journal, and just make a list of like the things that are important to you that you really want out of your life, how you see your business, how you see your creative journey, and just do what really, like at the core, resonates for you. And you will be more successful than you could possibly imagine, because it doesn't exist because you haven't done it yet. Your secret sauce, your special, your amazing success, the reason why you haven't found it yet is because you haven't done it, and you're the one that's going to do it.
That is awesome. I'm sitting here going, I'm so glad we made time for this today. So Allison, where can people find you online?
My website is atjphoto.com. And if anybody would, one of the things that I would love to give to anybody that wants it is I have a really great consultation form. We didn't really talk about that.
I've used it though. I just looked at it the other day.
Good. Yeah. I have a really great consultation form that I would be happy to send to anybody that is wanting to do better with consultations in their business. And that we will send that to you if you just email Jessica at atjphoto.com, and she will send that right out to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And you all listeners, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya. Be sure to subscribe for more business strategy and ideas to help you create the profitable and successful business you've always wanted. See you on the next episode of From Nothing to Profit.